Good morning. Myself DHRISHYA, Assistant Professor at Veda Vyasa College of Architecture, will be talking to you about the aspect of reconstruction in the field of architectural conservation. I will be explaining the same with respect to the theme presented in one of the ICOMOS workshops conducted in March 2017. The wholesale destruction of cultural heritage in Iraq and Syria in recent years have put the question of reconstruction back at the forefront of conservation debates. The 3D reconstruction of Palmyra Arc in New York and London further complicate the issue of authenticity. These aspects remain the major reason for the workshop and the selected theme. Reconstruction of heritage results from heritage processes associated with post-war or post-catastrophe recovery and societal reconstruction. Reconstructions are new and the result of changes to the pre-existing heritage, possess pastness and contribute to the societal future making and enhance the societal benefits of heritage. The three major aspects related to reconstruction of cultural heritage is authenticity, beneficial for future generations, and management aspects of conservation. The above theme, reconstruction as tools of future making, is discussed with respect to the following sub-themes. Theme 1, NARA to NARA plus 20 document, where is authenticity now? Theme 2, creating heritage, making futures, and Theme 3, conservation as management. Authenticity has long been the normative framework for discussions about reconstruction. Today, authenticity is a complex topic of different definitions and perspectives. Traveling a long way from Venice Charter to NARA document and finally to the NARA plus 20 document. According to NARA plus 20 document, authenticity is described as a culturally contingent quality associated with a heritage, place, practice or object that conveys cultural value, is recognized as a meaningful expression of an evolving cultural tradition and or evokes among individuals the social and emotional resonance of group identity. NARA document marked a paradigm shift by promoting the relativity of concept of authenticity, as the concept of cultural heritage itself assumes diverse forms proper to various cultural traditions. 20 years later, the NARA plus 20 document brought a very comprehensive and deliberately vague definition of authenticity. As the document talks, cultural heritage undergoes a continuous process of evolution. The concept of cultural heritage itself assumes diverse forms and processes, accommodates changes over time in perceptions and attitudes, which led to the concept of dynamic authenticity, which is the output of cumulative social cultural reconstructions. Thus, renewed paradigms in the perception and assessment of heritage led to authenticity being a dynamic aspect dependent on the context it belongs to. This varied perception in authenticity led to majorly two methods of reconstruction. The first definition of authenticity being that it is something is authentic when it is accurate in representation of the facts, trustworthy, reliable, that is, transmits a reliable information, which is justified with the traditional reconstruction of Shinto shrines in Japan, wherein the credibility of information and knowledge is assessed for authenticity. The second definition, that of being not counterfeit or copied, which touches more on the materiality of the artifacts, which led to the material originality concept of authenticity, which was seen in the Western culture. But these vague and varied ideas of authenticity also led to many abuses in reconstruction of cultural heritages in the world. Such a mimetic reconstruction, wherein recreating or creating fake historical buildings and symbols, manipulating the observers and collective memory, and also demolition of existing historic buildings, which is replaced by new mimetic constructions in the old style, that is, new functions and aesthetic demands hidden in overall historic appearance. Therefore, between material preservation and complete denial of material preservation, there is a midway point to be found from case to case, from culture to culture, in favor of a sensible and honest handling of authenticity and reconstruction issues, but always needs a certain degree of trustful historic references and continuity. Legacy of the past needs to be conserved for the benefit of the future generations as well as for our own. In conserving what we received, we have created heritage. Here I have taken up the concept of rethinking from reconstruction of monuments to reconstructing societies, which will comprise rebuilding post-conflict societies in a positive way that should focus majorly on, from the visible effect of conflict to the invisible one, on culture in its totality and in its complexity, from heritage sites and objects to people, and from past to the future. Basically, to create heritage practices, tackle issues that matter to people, experiencing or having experienced conflicts, support them in building better futures. And here we ask the question of, how is heritage being lost, changed or transformed? What might be the future benefits of heritage and how can we utilize it? Creative heritage practices should understand the role of heritage in the society and how this understanding is being changed and by whom. To learn more about the idea of reconstructing societies, I have taken up this study in Syria. Heritage for the people of Syria is shared belief, behavior and attitude of the people and values and traditions which form a cultural product from everyday socio-cultural and religious practices. Two major groups claim to work for the conflict-affected communities in Syria. But the extremist religious groups think heritage is a process that seeks to assemble a specific future that minors their own, imposed, exclusive and ideological interpretation of the past. Whereas the civil society groups considers heritage in a process-oriented approach that allows for a creative, reflexive and critical engagement with the past. The Olive Branch CSG. Olive Branch is a Syrian civil society group established in November 2012, initiated by a few activists which grew up to become one of the most powerful NGOs in the country. They offer various cultural and educational programs that target their local communities. Special focus on the children. As you can see in the picture, the OB utilizes cultural heritage sites and monuments to conduct certain activities which helps in creating link between heritage sites to local heritage and collective identity. The Olive Branch Cultural Centers offers capacity building workshops. Conservation has long been considered as the management of change. What consequences for construction flow from this process of change, from the shift in the social roles, powers and capacities that are brought to bear, including the implications for understanding resource allocation and knowledge and cultural development. Heritage management is not a finished product but a part of continuous process of social and cultural construction. And involvement of local community in the decision-making process becomes the greatest tool for regeneration. As conservation, as construction, that is heritage management, we need to recognize some demographic, technological, economic, social and environmental trends for the next couple of decades. Design strategies of action that would work for a range of various different scenarios of the future. Actively integrate future change in heritage management and thus accept the temporality of specific heritage discourses, for example by letting more of our decisions expire at specific points in the future. Therefore, conservation must always be informed by the question of what we want in the heritage to do in and to society in order to benefit specific people in present and future generations.